to say one side's wrong and one side's right? Well, one side won the war and one side didn't, right? And that's in everything. There's always two sides to a story, and the winner is the one who gets to promote their story. Bada bing, bada boom. We are live. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to The Rift. Episode 17. We're here back in action. Recording for right before we get back, or right before I get back from my trip to Africa. Was currently in Washington, D.C. for the past 5 days. And now I'm here for 2 days, leaving tomorrow. Going to be in Africa for 2 weeks. So we're getting you guys the best content that we can. Being that I'm going to be traveling, doing things, we want to make sure that we're coming out with episodes every Monday and Friday indefinitely. I'm going to continue to do that. So this is going to be probably a little bit, I guess a little bit outdated, but that's fine. It's fine. We're still just, hanging out with you guys, making sure that hopefully you can learn something, maybe get a little bit of education from it, but also get some entertainment and just listen to our conversation and hopefully get some critical thinking skills out of it, because that's kind of what this is we just talk, and it gives us, certain topics to talk about that we can invoke our own opinions on things, whatever. So, like I said, came back from Washington, right? So, Washington, D.C., it's the first time I've ever been there. Our classes, like during school, like when you're in junior high or whatever, going into high school, usually classes like make trips to Washington, D.C. and go through the whole history. Our school didn't let us do that. It was every other year. And so me and Parker missed out. What, have you been to Washington, D.C.?
I went when I was younger. So I went to all the museums, but we went to the museums that kids with like the
Spy Museum.
Went to the Spy Museum. We went to one of the ones where we saw the dinosaurs. The
Smithsonian, right?
Yeah, Smithsonian.
Yeah.
We saw that whatever that the rarest jewel in the world is, the Hope Gem or whatever.
Oh, the Hope. Yeah. The Hope Diamond.
Yeah, Hope Diamond. Yeah, we saw that stuff.
Okay.
It was still cool, but.
Yeah, and it's different now when you go there, man.
Oh, yeah.
So I've never been. That was my first time, and I'm glad that I went when I'm mature enough to understand the intricacies of government and of politics and the way people work with psychology, right? So one of the newer exhibits or museums is the Holocaust Museum. Okay, so this and one thing for me was I was thinking Washington, D.C., right? It's supposed to be American history, right? That was kind of my thought, is that a lot of this stuff should be American. And so they had, I guess, another new exhibit was African American exhibit, right? Makes sense. Another one was Native American museum. Another one was the Revolutionary War, right? It's all American history. Well, then they throw in the Holocaust Museum. And I'm this was Germany. This was Europe. And World War II would make sense, a World War II museum. And they have a World War II memorial, but they don't have a museum on it. And so that was first off, I was, okay. But I guess this is a cool thing. And you get to go in, you get to experience, I guess, what the Holocaust would have been if you were in they get pamphlets and stuff, and you go, and it was a very sad, probably wasn't it wasn't a happy one, but that's what being able to understand that kind of stuff now, the ins and outs of it are a lot more complex than I think most people take it for, right? When you read it in the history books, when we took American history or world history, you read things and you take it the way it says on text, right? Well, then you understand that the way it is written in text is by someone who likely wants you to read it that way. Okay, so what I mean by that is that they can put facts into a book but have bias in that book. And so where it might be facts, is it to say one side's wrong and one side's right? Well, one side won the war and one side didn't, right? And that's in everything. There's always two sides to a story, and the winner is the one who gets to promote their story, right? And
Not even just that though, like, because you said like being there and seeing all this stuff, like you realize how like, not that you wouldn't realize how serious it is by reading about it, but you definitely don't hear about the super vile stuff that went on in the history books. Like that goes for like slavery too. Like you don't hear about probably the worst things that happened because they don't want you thinking that our ancestors and our forefathers were those kind of people. But
exactly,
it's much worse than what you read about in the books. Like
and what you read, what children are reading because children are innocent, and as a child you don't want to expose, or as an adult, I'm like I don't want to expose children to that kind of cruelty and like that happens in life. But now that I'm old enough to understand that, I realize like this kind of stuff happens, and it's obviously terrible, and it understanding it and the way even it's just presented in that museum, I think is the best way that they can do it. But it's also just such a complex topic that using critical thinking when walking around that museum, I think is definitely needed. And I think a lot of people don't. They read it for what it is. And, a few people I would see it's tough. It's a tough thing to do. And it's all like facts, right? It's all presented with facts. And we've seen this with like Twitter, right? Freedom of speech, opening up with Elon buying Twitter and opening up freedom of speech. Now there's different opinions being like presented that likely wouldn't have been presented in the past with normal broadcast and with the controlling of media the way it was through the government. And I mean, propaganda is still very abundant in not only American culture, but all over the world. Obviously, China has propaganda pretty much, that's all they do is give out propaganda. And so seeing this museum, it definitely got me thinking about just the fact that like the people who win these wars are the ones who get to write those history books. People who lose don't get to write history books. They are instead become the scapegoat and the victim. And I ended up rewatching Star Wars. I haven't seen Star Wars in a bit. I was a big Star Wars nerd back in the day. Parker can vouch for that.
I can attest.
And with that, watching the Star Wars, it was episode 2, which I haven't seen in a long time, Clone Wars. Right? Why did I watch this? I don't know. I haven't seen it in a long time. Well, they present bad guys and good guys, right? And even in like the newer, or I guess the old ones in the 70s, there was the rebels and the Imperial, right? Where honestly, when you look at like the way, like we root for the rebels, we root for Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, we root for the underdogs, whereas like the Emperor or the Imperial and Darth Vader, they were the ones with all the money and they were the superpower. But we don't want them to win. Well, nowadays, that's us. It's America. We are Darth Vader and the Imperial Stormtroopers because we got a ton of, we've got a big giant army with a lot of money and a lot of weapons. And the underdogs are the rebels. But we don't root for the rebels in this case.
We're the stormtroopers.
We are the stormtroopers. Exactly. That's my point. And it was this paradox where it's like when you watch this on TV and you like fantasize it, you dream about it, you're like, wow, like isn't that so cool? The underdogs win. Like heck with those, big giant like people with all the money. Well, that's us. We are the people with the money. And the underdogs are the third world countries who are just trying to survive and just trying to get out of their countries and come to ours because ours is better. And it is just, you just live a better life in our country. And that's literally what is crazy is that right now we're kind of in that time where you see that stuff for what it is. And I think that takes critical thinking skills and not just reading the history books for facts, but taking that information, understanding that it is facts there, but there's also some sort of bias behind it because we won the war. So we can write the books the way we want them to. which is pretty interesting. And in that, I think then to kind of bring that to social media and how does that relate to our lives, particularly individually, is one particular person that we're constantly on social media and like just trying to figure out the intricacies of it and watching people grow, go viral, whatever it may be. And one person who in the recent years who took a massive jump and boost was Dream. Okay, so if you guys know who Dream is, he's a Minecraft. He was a speed runner, but he was really good at just like engaging you and engulfing you in a video game, right? And he had a storyline behind a plot, and he would do manhunts, is what they were called. And so he was just a good player, Minecraft player, whatever. He would keep you engaged. Good YouTuber, which is very smart with the things he did. Had a meteoric rise. Grew, what is he, like 20 million subscribers on YouTube?
I'm pretty sure he had like one of the fastest growing channels, like I don't know what year it was, probably 2021 maybe, like when he was really popping off.
Yeah.
I think he was growing like faster than Mr. Beast had even, like
I think he was too.
Those manhunt videos were just blowing up.
Yeah, and they were, and I watched them. I actually got back into Minecraft during that time and did speed running. It was like brought back that nostalgia that I had back whenever I was a kid and played Minecraft. And so I was definitely on the wave. I was subscribed and I watched his videos. Well, he then, you start, as you do when you go up, what goes up must come down, right? You start this meteoric rise and you grow and you're building and everything's going so fast and so fun. And then all of a sudden it starts to slow down and then it starts to decline. And Dream had always been anonymous. He was known for being anonymous, where most people have face cams. He was taken off and didn't want to do that. Well, really while he was on that downhill, I guess he kind of wanted some short-term boost, and so he decided to do this face reveal. And I think this is kind of what shifted, where he was writing his own history books, and then he kind of dropped the pen, right? He for some reason there was just something in there that he just didn't go about it the right way. I don't think he thought through it enough.
I don't even think it was necessarily that. Like, I think him doing the face reveal was fine, but it's how he responded to the response of his face reveal. Like, if anyone hasn't seen the face reveal, he's not a bad-looking guy. I think it's just like the angle he was at, and then the comments. The comments were just roasting him.
Comments, that's it. And that's the way media, or that's the way the internet is, right? Internet's full of memes because everyone loves it. It's always been that way. Like, that's the internet. Is just people making fun of people.
He could have came out and it could have been Ryan Reynolds and people would have said he was ugly just because the suspense was so high to see what he looked like.
Exactly. It didn't matter. It didn't matter what he looked like. And he came off of that very differently, and where he was just focused on his gameplay and entertainment, then it started to get more about him, I guess, and then his feelings show, and he had this like wall that he put up where now you could tell it was getting under his skin, and you could tell as a viewer, you could just tell that he wasn't like his normal self after this face reveal. And I think it kind of ruined what he was and what he is doing now. Like that downhill, that was definitely a downhill. It started that peak, and then I think it's all been downhill from there.
Because we talked about it. How he came up with face reveal and everyone was flaming him, making memes, and instead of tagging along with the memes and riding the wave and making jokes about himself, which he should have done and probably would have went away really fast, instead he got mad and said, well, you know what? I'm deleting the face reveal. I'm not posting any videos until you're doing this. And everyone's like, oh, he's offended. Let's make more jokes. That's just how the internet works. Yeah. So if he would have went the opposite route and like made a meme himself about him being ugly or about him not looking good, then I think everyone tweet probably would have blown up and it would have blown over because everyone's like, oh, he's not even fun to make fun of. Like, he just tags along. I think that's where he messed up, was his response to the memes. Yeah,
that's how it works. It's when you're insecure, then your insecurities show, and then people dive deep into that. When like I mean, for instance, like letting who is it? Or I mean, I'm trying to think like bodybuilders, like where their body is basically perfect, but it's that body dysmorphia that you see in the mirror where you don't think you're perfect, and then you point out that insecurity, and then since you point that out, now someone can point that out, and then it compounds that belief.
Yeah.
In that, like, oh my God, like say whatever it is, my right bicep is bigger than my left bicep, and then you point that out to someone, then they point that out to someone else, and then it starts to become true, because now the more people that see that the right bicep is bigger than the left bicep, now it becomes true, and that fallacy is then in place.
I think a great example would be the Trin Twins and how everyone started commenting saying like, oh, mini Pekkas and stuff. Did you ever see that? Everyone would comment and be like, the two mini Pekkas, like, you know, Clash Royale or whatever. The little mini Pekka, like they look like mini Pekkas, just like short and stout. And they came out with a video as Alex, and he was like, dude, you see those guys calling you mini Pekkas? And both of them started like dying laughing, and then they even like uploaded videos like two mini Pekkas at the gym, like, and tagged along, and now everyone just, it died off. And even when people do say it, everyone thinks it's hilarious. Yeah. But if they would have came out and been like, dude, don't say that, don't call me that, then everyone would still be saying that, and everyone would be like on their head about
even
it.
More.
So, yeah.
And
so
then there'd be
they tagged
videos
along. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, like, what is that? Because, you know, me and you, we don't get offended by that kind of stuff. Like, we've always, and is that confidence in yourself? Because here's the deal with the Trin Twins. Like, I think they've worked on themselves, and they have that confidence in themselves to where someone makes fun of them, they know, like, okay, I'm a mini Pekka. Whatever. Yeah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect them because they're so secure with themselves. Where those insecurities, like, do they even have them? I mean, do I even have it? I guess all of us probably have insecurities, but is it to a point to where it's going to affect our lives, or we're going to let it affect our lives?
Well, I'd say, because even like when I was younger in like middle school and high school, I used to be a lot fatter. For anyone, like I was like, I'm down 100 pounds. So when I was like really fat, like I would never make fat jokes. And if somebody made a fat joke, I'd be like, I wouldn't get mad because then they know you're mad. But in my head, I would get mad. Now, like if anything about fat comes up, I'm the first one to make a joke about myself. I'm like, oh, I'm fat piece of shit or whatever. It's like, say the joke first because I really don't care now. Yeah. And it makes everyone else like, well, if I call him fat, he's not going to care. He calls himself fat. Yeah. So like, I think it's partially it's understanding the game of if you say it, if you tag along with it, like it has no meaning to you. But if you're offended by it, then people are going to use that against you at the same time.
Yeah. And if it is something that truly does offend you and you let people know, then that's going to continue to compound.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so just limiting that. I don't know. So let us know whatever you think our insecurities are or what you think we need to know. Because I don't know. Whatever you think, like where me and Parker are lacking. What's our deal?
I think one of mine is probably eating on the podcast. Had a few comments about that, and guess what? I'm embracing it.
He's embraced it. He's still munching over there. That's good. No, I like that. Yeah, exactly. And if there's anything else, let us know. Let us know in the comment section because, guys, it's going to wrap up episode 17. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Hopefully you had some entertainment, maybe some education, maybe a different perspective gained, talking about, you know, how really and truly I think the winners write the history books and how I think you can write your own history book with your own life and however you want to do it. Just use some critical thinking skills and, you know, just think about it a little bit. So that's going to wrap up the episode. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that subscribe button as well because we're going to continue to upload weekly, Monday and Friday. We'll be back here. So if you did enjoy, hit the subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment. Guys, we'll talk to you in the next one. Have a good one.